Ghana's inflation has maintained its slumping spree after the rate dropped to 45% in March 2023. This is the third consecutive month that inflation has slowed since inching a more than two-decade high in 54.1% in December 2022. Listen to government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim, who announced the new rate a few hours ago.
Consumer Price Index and rate of inflation for the month of March 2023. Consumer Price Index for the month of March 2023 stood at 166.6 indices relative to 114.9 that was recorded for the same time March 2022. Given these two price indices, that is 166.6 for March 2023 and 114.9 for March 2022, year-on-year inflation for the month of March 2023 was 45.0%. This means that prices of goods and services on the average have gone up by 45.0% between March 2022 and March 2023. We continue to see a decline in the rate of increase. So although we still continue to record inflation rates that are showing higher prices over time, the rate of increases have been declining. It will be recalled that in the month of December 2022, when we reached a peak of 54.1%, it decreased by 0.5 percentage points in January 2023 and further decreased by 0.8 percentage points in February 2023, and for the month of March 2023 we are seeing a 7.8 percentage point difference between the year-on-year inflation that was recorded for the month of February 2023 and March 2023. So conclusively, we have seen a sharper decline in the rate of change in our inflation rate between February 2023 and March 2023, although prices of goods and services on a year-on-year basis have seen an increase of 45 percentage points annually. On a month-on-month basis, we have recorded a deflation, and this deflation is 1.2%. That is between February 2023 and March 2023. Prices of goods and services on the average have gone down by 1.2%. This deflation that we have recorded in 2023 saw its kind in September 2020. So the last time we saw a deflation in a month-on-month inflation of about 1.1% in August 2020 and about 0.8% in September 2020. We've now seen another deflation for the month of March 2023, with prices of goods and services on a month-on-month basis going down by 1.2%. We do the first level disaggregation from the perspective of food inflation and non-food inflation, and also further do the disaggregation based on locally produced items and imported items. From a food and non-food inflation perspective, we see a percentage point difference of 10.2 percentage points as food inflation recorded 50.8 for the month of March 2023 relative to 40.6 for non-food inflation for the same period, March 2023, culminating in the 10.2 percentage point difference between food inflation and non-food inflation. From a locally produced item perspective, we did record locally produced items 41.9% for the month of March 2023, whereas imported items inflation was 51.6% for the month of March 2023.
Let's get on Zoom and speak with Head of Price Statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service, John Foster Ajao. He's joined me this afternoon. I'm grateful for your time, Ms. Ajao. What's accounting for this significant dip in the rate of inflation?
Good afternoon to our cherished viewers. So if you watch, you realize that for the month of March, there have been a significant drop in the rate of inflation for domestically produced items. And I think this stressing the point that people are making, that if I were to look inwards, with correct things that we do locally, we may see a significant drop in the rates. So for March, yes, it's locally produced items, and that is food mostly.
Can you disaggregate this headline figure by actually walking us through some items that recorded rates above the national inflation?
Great. So as we indicated in the release, whereas in the past months, we used to have diesel, petrol, featuring among the top 20 items. But the good news is that for the month of March, with the exception of granules, which has always featured in the list of 20 items that record inflation about the national average, most of the items that used to influence the rate have gone down. So now we're talking about groundnut, palm oil, washing soap, which are imported items, sunflower cooking oil, coconut oil, and then sanitary pads. These are items that recorded inflation above the national average. But amongst all these, it is only washing soap that saw a significant increase in price between the month of February and the month of March.
Mr. Anyao, what's the picture at the regional level?
So the regional dynamics is quite interesting. If you recall, we used to have Western North leading the regional I-Call league table, and interestingly for the month of March, we're still having Western North, which is leading, and then we have Volta region, as usual, also recording the list. And you realize that Western North, Bono, Eastern region, and Greater Accra are the regions that saw significant increase in inflation, whereas the Ashanti region, the Volta region, had the lowest in terms of inflation for the month of March.
Are we likely to see such more significant declines? I mean, especially should we get the IMF approved?
You know, that's a hard one though, but ordinarily, as I've said, looking at the dynamics and how things are going, we should be seeing, the rate keep on the downward trajectory. But you see, it's all boiled down to other policy dynamics. And so if tomorrow you and I wake up and we see some other policies that are counter, the decline that we are recording, then we may have a different story. Yes, the IMF story is in twofold. If it comes along with conditionalities, that will probably show increasing in taxes, that will see people, getting out of job and other things cause rate up, then there'll be a reversal. But if the policy comes and it favors, for example, like fuel prices, exchange rate being stable, then we can continue this thing that we are saying.
John Foster Adjao, I'm grateful for your time. He's head of price statistics at the Ghana Statistical Service. Meanwhile, economists say Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta may have to present another budget to Parliament if the $3 billion IMF bailout is not secured anytime soon. There's currently a Ghanaian delegation in the U.S. engaging the global financial institution and creditors as part of efforts to secure a deal. Dr. Theo Champon believes any further delays could throw the 2023 budget out of gear.
The deal delays and the first tranche of the funding is not released. As Prof was saying, basically, look, the 2023 budget numbers don't make sense anymore. So we'd have to go back to Parliament and represent a new, estimate. So the finance minister wouldn't have to wait until the mid-year budget in July. I suspect that he would have to go back to Parliament between now and July, possibly sometime, towards the end of the month with some revised budget numbers, but especially on the expenditure side, some deeper cuts on expenditure to compensate for the loss of revenue that we're likely to see. If you recall, just the last few days, even the port authorities are saying that their cargo volumes are down, right? And the revenues then they're expecting are unlikely to be met. Against all of the headwinds, the inflation, the challenging business environment that Prof has mentioned. So I think the clear pathway I see, if the IMF deal delays, would basically be the government, in this case, the finance minister, going back to Parliament and representing new budget numbers, but this time around with some much deeper cuts on the expenditure side of the equation.
Dr. Theo Champon is economist and political risk analyst. Meanwhile, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Bokmin, on his part, says the IMF is not doing enough to ensure Ghana's deal is approved. He says the IMF is using the situation to gain some grounds in international geopolitics. He believes Ghana's economy may suffer irreparable damages if care is not taken.
I think that the delay will have more to do with how the West approach this matter, rather more than China being used more or less as a scapegoat here. That is what I think. And I think that the IMF must have a plan B. Okay, because why? Ghana is a member country of the IMF. Okay, and in this hard time, this is where the IMF has to demonstrate their commitment to vulnerable countries like Ghana. And especially, why am I saying so? Ghana's indebtedness to China is not in the same category like Zambia.
Yeah.
And all of that. And therefore, the over-reliance on the global geopolitics to more or less make China look like a bad lender on the continent may actually affect more vulnerable countries like Ghana and the others than it will actually affect China. So I think that we need to get that clear, and we need to send a strong message to the IMF and their Western allies that Ghana needed the program and we needed it like yesterday. We've had enough of the geopolitics, the geo-economic fragmentation, and how they want this to play out and all of that.
From the economy, the Ghana Registered Midwives and Nurses Association says the UK government's red listing of Ghana will not stop health workers from leaving the country to see greener pastures. According to the UK government, Ghana is now among the list of 54 countries that should not be actively targeted for recruitment by health and social care employers. Thus, the General Secretary of the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association says will not stop what the UK government is trying to prevent: brain drain.
The system of recruitment is different, okay? They have various means of recruiting health workers in UK. You, as an individual, can apply to a health institution and you'll be taken on board. And it's ongoing and it will continue because migration is a right. There is no way they can stop anybody from coming to United Kingdom to come and work, so long as you have the requisite qualification. It's just politics. They can never stop it. Look, by close of 2020, UK had lost about 40,000 healthcare workers. How are they going to replace that? So the recruitment process will go on. The WHO has a guideline on ethical recruitment, and that is what they are seeking to emphasize. But it does not preclude them from continuing to employ our people. For instance, the Ministry of Health has an ongoing conversation to sign a bilateral agreement with the UK government to export nurses to United Kingdom. That, I'm told, has not been put on hold. But don't let anybody delude himself into thinking that if UK is stopping nurses and midwives from coming to their country, then it means that the attrition has stopped. No. There are various destinations. Austria has opened up, Germany has opened up. And what government must do is to be very intentional about putting in measures that will retain our people. We don't need to train and lose them. Okay. The good people of this country also deserve quality health care.
Now, Public Relations Officer of the Ministry of Health, Isaac Ofeba, says the Health Ministry has appealed the directive. He says discussions on a bilateral agreement with the UK government that will regulate the movement of Ghanaian health workers to the UK is ongoing. Let's discuss this further and speak with Dr. Justice Yankson, his Vice President of the Ghana Medical Association. I'm grateful for your time, Doc. I mean, recently we've had doctors caution government to improve their condition of service or lose them. Now we're hearing nurses also speak same language, even though the UK has red listed us as countries not to be considered for health and social employments. Your initial reactions, Doc?
Okay, good afternoon, Aisha. I think this is a very simple issue, but still complicated. One, the UK, this release we are talking about, has not put a complete ban on recruitment of health professionals. They are looking at their interests and not ours. Yes, they will do what is ethical, but ultimately they will want to man up when it comes to the shortfall they have in their healthcare delivery system. Look, if you tell an agency not to recruit actively or to bear in mind that some countries are at risk, it does not necessarily mean that recruitment will not go on, visas will be issued, what have you. So the key thing for us is, as a state, what are we doing to preserve what we have, to contain and retain the professionals that we have trained? The UK is also not the only country that recruits our professionals. For the last 3 to 4 decades, Ghanaian professionals have worked in the Middle East, they've worked in Europe, not UK alone, but Europe as a broader continent. We are talking about North America, Canada, United States, and other places. So the opportunity for health professionals to migrate still abound. And what we need to do as a people is to put in the right measures that will help retain our professionals here, not to rely on some publications that a country says you are on a red list when it comes to recruitment, but there is no complete ban on such recruitment. Individuals are still going there in droves. If an agency can send 100 people, and let's say for ethical reasons they send 10, and the individuals on their own move, and you have 100, what have you done? There's nothing different. So we just need to put our house in order, and that is the key thing.
But how exactly should government handle this in trying to retain its own health workers?
Look, the push factors are well known to government. We as an association, we've documented, we've sent position papers. It didn't start today. This migration business is not something that is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. No, it's been going on for decades. There are times we put in interventions and it helped, but those interventions have not been sustained. So as we speak, you just need to look at the push factors. If somebody has worked for, let's say, 10 to 15 years, and in real terms, his salary hasn't gone up in terms of the purchasing power, and he even thinks that he's retrogressing. So to make it simpler, let's say somebody started work 15 years ago to 20 years ago with the equivalent of, say, $1,000 a month in Ghana. And if today, having worked for 20 years, probably become a senior person and all that, he cannot get that $1,000 equivalent. Technically, he's retrogressing because now he has a bigger family. He's married or she's married. She's got kids. She has to attend to elderly, members of the society and family and what have you. So clearly, the conditions under which we work in terms of your compensation is key. Yes, nobody is saying that the compensation can be matched in terms of what the UK will provide and here. But if there is a deliberate effort to improve that, it will help. Other working conditions relating to the workplace, the opportunities for you to improve yourself, upgrade yourself, and all of those bits. The social protection mechanisms like healthcare for professionals and what have you. These are key opportunities to train and improve on your professional career and what have you. So until we begin to look at things properly, look, we'll just play ostrich and the health professionals will keep living. One thing we also are losing track of is the fact that the migration is not only even about those moving out of the country. Intra-country, there's also migration from the health sector to other sectors. So you may have a nurse or a doctor or a pharmacist who may have been trained to practice, these highly rated professions, but looking at the conditions under which they find themselves, they move out of the health sector and may be doing something in the world of business or farming or agri, wherever. And that in itself is also a big problem for us. And within the space, what is also worrying is that most of the people who are in more or less the middle to the top in terms of experience are the ones who are even living in droves. And these days they go and not settle all by themselves out there, but there's opportunity for their spouses and kids to also join them. So it's more like a whole family that is moving out. The spouse may not be a health professional, but will also be another professional who is equally, in quotes, sought after, either out there in Europe or America or wherever, or who should, under normal circumstances, be able to contribute to what we have as a country. So there's a lot we need to do, and the onus is now on the states. The Ministry of Health should tell all of us what they are doing. It is not lip service. We should be made to know, and it should be implemented, and it should be practical, such that people will look at some of these things and say that, well, we'll consider what is happening because it improves our loss to an extent and stay. Otherwise, once the golden fruits are being dangled at them, people will leave.
I'm grateful for your time. Dr. Justice Yankson is Vice President of the Ghana Medical Association. So other stories, former President John Dramani Mahama says the NDC will create job opportunities for party faithful to enable them take care of their basic needs should he win the 2024 polls. According to the former president, it's time the party rewards sacrifices of party faithful by ensuring that they equally get opportunities that will make them have their share of the national cake. He said this. He said the NDC will ensure massive job creation to fulfill that promise. He was speaking to the party supporters in Isiojaman in the eastern region.
Your home boy for it. Emre say your democracy. Ghana nadia. Enti almost as party kids your best sacrifice. But yes, so your chefa Ghana etimima akwenya say yenya. I was say your bomb diana your party for sunya o chefa. Ye bi wo ha enkrofo bi ware wo ha yeto obi badin wo ha every day o kon ye ka say o ye branch chairman hey branch chairman omo no say post kesi o enti omo so omo expect say eyi na obe yi no e be so mbo kakra me wa wo twe a entwe ezu enti me can say metimi amoka anama mamuska na metimi ayibibi, but we will find employment for you so that you can earn an income and also be able to look after the party. Those who can work will find you employment. Those who can work, you can open something of your own. Sewunya o poultry farm bi na o ton kuko ne nkosia kakra. E di dwetire bi beba wo botom. Wokọ a wotwe a beba na also dey akobon sawa. We will help you with employment opportunities. We will help you to set up your own businesses so that you can look after yourselves. We will seek the welfare of our party people. We will no longer expect that you only sacrifice so that other people enjoy. The opportunities that all Ghanaians enjoy, our party executives and our party cadres must also enjoy the same opportunities. Yabeye jumading na mepese by midnight ekobo 1 a.m. 7th December 2024 na yedim say NDC yenya ye result.
And from the NDC to the NPP, because the NPP is envisaging a resounding victory in the upcoming by-elections at Kumewu constituency of the Ashanti region. Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Entry-Boesiako says the party intends to use the elections to deepen its dominance in the region. Already, the opposition NDC has a candidate who has kicked off his campaigning ahead of scheduling of a by-election. Nanaya Ojima has more.
The NPP MP for Kumeu constituency, Philip Baswa, died last month, leaving the seat vacant. On Monday, the party opened nominations for members who have shown interest to contest the seat on the party's ticket. Already, 5 people, including Edward Osei, who came second in the last primaries, have picked forms to contest the seat. Justice Odro speaks for him.
In our party, we reward loyalty and hard work. Just lawyer came in last primaries. He didn't go. He stayed here, work with the party executive delegates. So he's a grassroots man. That's why I'm saying he will win massively.
Others include Philip Bano, Ernest Yao Enim, Dacosta Abuaje, and Amasewa, the only female to have filed so far. NPP chairman in Ashanti, Bernard Enchibo-Siako, says the party is encouraging the youth and women to contest the election.
So once you are bringing the nomination, you will bring it if you are above 40 and above, you have to add another 35,000 Ghana cedi. And the youth, woman, and disabled will pay 17,500. This is what so far.
Chairman Wuntumi says the party is committed to ensuring continuity in the development of the constituency under a new leader as Member of Parliament. He is convinced of victory.
Badaroma, ayade kwa biaso. Ye be win ewo eye by election no. Onyankopon kaye ho.
We will win the by-election. We are saddened by the demise of our MP, Philip Baswa, before the end of his tenure. Whoever is elected as flag bearer by the delegates will be accepted and supported to win the seat again. The win will be massive. Whoever is elected will be overwhelmingly endorsed by the people.
Now, you win massive votes at the Ama no Anna MPP. Na yedi ashaga na enuan munya no so watimenya akwanya akọ abankasie mu na watimi akwakoye adwuma de ama okumawu.
The picking of nominations for NPP aspirants continues till Friday. The National Democratic Congress has already put forth Kwesi Amankwa as its candidate for the by-election. He is already on a campaign.
Right, we were prepared a year ago, because we have taken that seat very seriously. We need to take that seat back for NDC. So we've been prepared a year ago, and now we are ready for the battle. Even if we have to go to vote tomorrow, we are ready. And we are 100% sure that we are going to win the seat for NDC.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
Back here in Accra, Joy News is learning of shortage of fuel, especially petrol, in some stations across the country. It is unclear the reason behind the shortage, but Executive Director of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, Duncan Amwa, blames the mode of implementation of the gold for oil policy for the likely shortage of fuel at some Gulf fuel stations. There's more in the following desk report.
Joy News' checks at 4 Goil stations along the Odoko-Kaneshi Road reveals shortage of super at all 4 stations. Although 2 stations at Odoko have both super and diesel shortage, Goil at Atiko Malam Junction and Malam Market both have diesel but no super. The situation appears to be an only Goil problem because other OMCs along the stretch have fuel. Executive Secretary of COPEC, Duncan Amwa, explains why.
I can confirm that there's been some light supply disruptions with Goil. Personally, I did a few of their outlets just yesterday, and it was difficult to get fuel. We have to probe and ask a few questions what probably could be accounting for, on the back of the fact that we had earlier made a prediction that the second window for April is likely to see fuel prices go up. We were thinking that it was simply the issue of hoarding, where dealers were not willing to put products at the forecourt because they anticipate a price adjustment upwards. But when we checked, it was just simply because they were not able to get the sort of products that they do supply on a regular to some of their outlets, and that has led to the no fuel sign at a lot.
Well, GOL has since released a statement on the shortage. Let's share details of that statement with you right on your screens. It says GOL wishes to acknowledge to the public, especially its valued customers, there have been shortages of its Super XP Run 95 at some of its stations. The shortages which were experienced during the Easter holidays were because of operational challenges occasioned by supply disruptions. GOIL has meanwhile taken delivery of enough products and has just yesterday taken adequate steps to dispatch over 2 million litres to our fuel stations experiencing the shortages. Over 2 million litres more will be dispatched today. Additionally, GOIL intends to release more stocks to the affected stations in the next 2 days to augment supplies at the stations. It apologizes for the inconveniences caused to customers, and is signed by Robert Shre with the Public Affairs Department. Now, on climate change impacts, it has impacted countries around the world. Scientists in Ghana are hard at work establishing how much the country is contributing to the crisis. In the Biatano Forest Reserve in the Hafo region, climate scientists have installed Ghana's first instrument for measuring carbon flux dynamics. That's the amount of carbon moving around. This is regarded as one of the critical nature-based solutions for reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere with the goal of mitigating global warming. During News Climate correspondent Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin has been speaking to officials of the project.
The reason of installation has been that the Biatano Forest Reserve is found within the middle belt of Ghana, and this forest is very unique in the sense that it behaves, because it's found within the transitional belt, it behaves more likely to the savanna zone kind of forest system, and then it also has some characteristics of the tropical rainforest kind of ecosystem. So with this forest being within the middle of the transitional belt of Ghana, it gives us a very rich kind of data for us to understand how our forest is really behaving, especially with those that might be in the northern savanna and also that in the southern tropical forest, rainforest.
The activity of the Biatano Forestation is expected to shed light on carbon cycling and more generally on the ecological feedback of tropical forests with respect to climate change, as re-echoed by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change IPCC. Experts emphasize that the sudden increase in atmospheric greenhouse gases concentrations caused by human activities contributes to global warming.
Currently the lead scientist working on the carbon flux monitoring project that is under the Earth Observation Research Innovation Center.
Dr. Caleb Mensah is with the Department of Atmospheric and Climate Sciences and a researcher with the Earth Observation Research and Innovation Center at the University of Energy and Natural Resources.
We know that trees, through photosynthesis, are able to absorb a lot of this carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and these carbon dioxide are part of these greenhouse gases that have a lot of this warming effects that we have been experiencing now.
We take a break on Joy News. Today we'll bring you business shortly.
Hello, good afternoon. Warm welcome to the business segment on Joy News today with me, Pius Kojo Baka. And inflation for the month of March 2023 falls sharply to 45%. Now, this was influenced by deflation recorded by the food and non-alcoholic beverages. Professor Samuel Kobnen is the government statistician.
Inflation for the month of March 2023 stood at 45.0% for March 2023. This indicates a 7.8 percentage point drop relative to the rate that was recorded in the month of February 2023. In February 2023, we recorded a rate of 52.8, and in January 2023, 2023, 53.6. So we are seeing a sharper decline in the rate of inflation between February 2023 and March 2023, with a 7.8 percentage point drop between these two time periods. From a regional perspective, we identified the Western North recording the highest rate of inflation of 67.3% and the Volta region recording the least rate of inflation of 25.6%. Disaggregating the national rate of inflation from a food and non-food perspective, we recorded food inflation 50.8% and non-food inflation 40.6%, indicating a 10.2 percentage point difference between food and non-food inflation. Food inflation saw a much sharper drop as it recorded 59.1% for the month of February 2023, indicating an 8.3 percentage point difference from a food inflation perspective and a 7.3 percentage point difference from a non-food perspective. So the slow rate of inflation that we are seeing is largely driven by the sharper drop from a food perspective relative to a non-food perspective. From a locally produced item and an imported item perspective, we saw locally produced items recording an inflation rate of 41.9% and inflation on imported items 51.6%, indicating a 9.7 percentage point difference between locally produced items and imported items.
Professor Samokobna named there. Now, the Paris Club of International Creditors has set up a partial creditor committee to kickstart negotiations talks with Ghana. My colleague George Yaffe reports.
The creditor committee is being called partial because for now it doesn't include China, which was invited to the meeting as one of the single largest bilateral creditors that Ghana is indebted with more than $1.9 billion. The committee has agreed to start negotiations with Ghana on how the more than $5 billion debt should be handled. That is, whether they will be looking forward to cancelling these debts or review the payment terms, which could end up with the maturity being reviewed. However, China, for now, is not part of the initial deal that was reached in this meeting. This because of concerns as to how the debt owed, which is linked to private firms like the China Exim Bank, should be handled. However, there are indications that China is willing to embark on further engagement and return to the table, possibly participate in this committee in terms of how the debt should be handled. Sources say China has indicated its willingness and pledge that, in principle, it is committed to participating in Ghana's financing program, but one is not sure about the form and structure. Ghana only needs commitment from these bilateral creditors that they are committed to having their debts restructured, what some are describing as financing assurances. And with that, Ghana can go to the IMF board with its program request for possible approval.
And that's it for business for now. I am Pius Kojobaka. There'll be more business news on the top of the hour with the marketplace. Sports is next.
Let's do sports now. On Joy News today, I am Muftau Nabila Abdullah. The Ghana Football Association, they have launched a futsal Premier League that will have about 16 teams competing. According to President of the Ghana Football Association, though the football governing body do not have the facilities and logistics required to organize a competition, it is important to create a platform to hone the talent of footballers.
Because we believe in teamwork, because we are working as a team, we believe, and he believes, that we'll go through the challenges one by one as we travel along in our attempt to build an industry for lovers of futsal football. We may not have the best of pitches, we may not have the best of balls, but the journey starts today. And slowly and gradually, we will invest in the sport, and the sport will give life and hope to many people in this country.
Tonight, there will be UEFA Champions League football. Chelsea, who come up against Real Madrid at Santiago Bernabeu. The Blues is led by Frank Lampard, who replaced Graham Potter following the dismissal of the former Brighton and Hove Albion manager. Lampard has been speaking about that fixture, and he's very confident that his boys will rise to the occasion.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Showbiz here on Joy News today. In our stories this afternoon, celebrity fashion designer Elikem Kumoji, popularly known as Elikem the Tailor, has revealed going global with his craft is his goal. In an interview with Joy News, Elikem says his focus is breaking the international fashion barriers, ensuring that the world gets to know about his unique designs.
No, I found the craft out of adversity. They say when a man is in adversity, he finds himself. And I was in the University of Ghana, Legon. I couldn't pay tuition into level 400, so I deferred my course. And when I came home, I just love to look good. I like to look different from people. I want to wear different things. And so I started making clothes for myself. Other people saw and liked. And I was like, if people like the clothes, there's actually a business that can come out of it. So I started putting chobo small on the clothes I made. And today, here I am.
And I don't know if you're proud of yourself, but I'm sure that when people who have followed you over the years, I remember over the years, when I say over the years, it's been like 10 years. Right. And today, we're proud of you. Are you proud of yourself? And what's
could have been, better. We all procrastinate at a point in our lives, every now and then, but we pick ourselves up quickly. However, I'm grateful for my milestone. I have been in business for a little over 10 years, and I can still see, my dreams are big. They say dream so big you can't have an ego. And so my ego is in check, and I am only 1% of where I want to be. I want to be global, I want to go worldwide. I want every country to have a piece of my clothing, stuff like a Zara, like the Zara of Africa. That's the dream, and that's where we're headed.
Away from Elikem, multiple award-winning musician Sak Kodier says his Jam World Tour is expected to begin with Europe. According to Sak, dates for US and other parts of the world will be announced in due course.
2 dates. We're doing world tour, but the first leg is the Europe tour. That's the dates that I gave out. London, I know Germany's in there, France, Belgium, Denmark, few places. Then yes, we'll be announcing the US dates soon as well. So yeah, if you're following Sako there, I'll keep you posted.
Well, on that note, we end Showbiz here on Joy News today. There's more Showbiz news in our subsequent bulletins. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, beautiful Becky. How are you doing?
I'm all right. I'm okay. You okay?
And that's how we wrap up the bulletin this afternoon. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. Do enjoy the rest of our programs.